Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story? All right. You are listening to the What's Your Weird Story podcast. This is the 7th episode.
Yeah.
And I am one of your co-hosts, Adam Beebe. With me is my only co-host, Barry Johnston. I
better be your only co-host, man.
There could be some moonlighting going on, but there's not. So, this is only our 7th episode. So
we're still in love.
But we're still in love. Yeah, the honeymoon is still going strong.
Okay, good.
So today, as you know, for all of you out there in Weird Storyland, this is a fun episode. We had a lot of laughs doing this episode.
These are old friends. These are old friends. These are
old friends. We got a brother and sister act from our hometown, and they've got some spooky stories. They've got some fun stories, and they've got some Bigfoot stories, and which leads us into the fact that I'm going to be coming down to Oklahoma, heading back home in October.
Yeah, man.
What we're going to be doing is we are going to the Oklahoma Bigfoot Conference. I think that's what it's called. It's in Honobia, Oklahoma. Symposium and conference and convention and whatever. It's a lot of Bigfoot fans.
Hubbard is as big of a Sasquatch fan as you're ever going to find.
Oh, that's for sure. And he's one of our guests today, and he's got a story to tell that's great. And I never heard, as you will hear my reaction later on. So, yeah, stay tuned for future episodes where, we're going to try to get some stories from Bigfoot Fest. We should probably learn the official name of it, but we'll be there, and we're going to get some stories. Let's get to the Hubbards, Jeff and Kim. Let's get to the fun times. So, Barry, joining us today are a couple of people that you know as well as I do. They're a brother and a sister. They're friends of ours from our hometown of Kingfisher, Oklahoma. We've got Jeff and Kim with us here, and we are very excited to hear their stories. So, guys, what's your weird story?
All right. Well, this is Jeff. We figured we'd kind of open with a little story about a Ouija board that we received for Christmas one year.
Great.
So, Kim, do you want to... I don't know how old we were. Probably 8. I don't know. Maybe Kim was 10,
little.
9 or 10. Sometimes Santa would bring us double gifts. Like there would be, we'd have all our gifts to ourselves, but then we'd have some gifts that Kim and I were to play together. And so this one year, I don't know what year it was, we got a Ouija board for Christmas. And
did you ask? Did either of you ask for this tool to speak to the nether regions, to demons and ghosts and all these things? This is just something. This is from Santa, but was it Mrs. Claus or Mr. Claus?
Mrs.
Okay.
Really weird because my mom is so, Catholic and virtuous, and she said she thought it would be a good game for us to play. So.
Yeah. There you go. All right.
So we played.
All right. So, okay. So you got the Christmas Ouija board.
So, yeah, we got this Ouija board, and I think it's sat largely unused until we got into high school. And then I think Kim got it out first with some of her friends. And so I'll just let her go with it.
Yeah. So the story that I have about the Ouija board stems back to the big cemetery that is in Kingfisher. And for some reason, I loved hanging out in that cemetery. I wrote poetry. I visited certain graves. My other friends and I would take the flowers, not off the graves. We wouldn't take the flowers off the graves, but they would clear them away, the dirty ones or whatever. And then we'd put them in the back window of our car and drive around with them. Anyway, that's totally off topic. But so one night, I know it was my idea because I was kind of an instigator.
Little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I had some ideas, And a group of us went out there and took the Ouija board to see if we could conjure up something. And there was a certain grave that was really, really old, and the only thing it said on it was peaches. And so we all talked about peaches and I forgot about it until Jeff mentioned it yesterday and we were talking about doing this. But yeah, so the thing that I remember and the thing that freaked everyone out was my friend, we'll call her Elizabeth, and I were sitting on top of Peach's grave, and we had the Ouija board in between us and our hands on I don't know what you call it, the thingy.
I believe it's called a planchette. The
Holy shit.
planchette.
Planchette?
Yeah, the device that you scoot around on, that you put your fingers on and moves around. Yeah, it's called a planchette.
Okay, so we heard directions from the book for the Ouija board. We just put our fingertips lightly on the planchette, and then another friend of ours asked a question. We did not know the answer, and the question was, what was Elvis's something top hit in this year? And the thing just started going, and it wasn't like anything that I had, experienced before with it. It was moving, and it spelled out suspicious minds. And when it did that, the guy that asked the question reacted very strongly. And I think we left pretty soon after that because it was really scary.
Yeah.
Because that was the correct answer. And we didn't have any idea. So.
What is
and
that?
This was back in the days before smartphones, and you could just Google something and instantly know it because, yeah.
Yeah, you had to go to a library and stuff.
Or talk to the dead.
Yeah.
What does it feel like when an entity or whatever is moving that thing? I mean, did you think your friend was moving it, or what was your reaction in the beginning?
I don't really recall. I just remember thinking this was not. It didn't feel like it had before when we'd played around with it before.
Right.
It felt out of my control. I mean, it felt like something else had it,
Right.
And my fingers were just there. Wow. And it was a weird, it was an exciting feeling, but it was also frightening. Mm-hmm. But, I was not really afraid of anything. So I thought it was really cool, and I enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
So then, I don't know what happened next, but our buddy Payne, well, we'll just call him Brad.
Hold on.
Maybe we should just call him Payne. That's all.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, it's all good. I'll edit it.
You cut that out. So,
Okay. So-
well, Hubbard, Jeff, before you get on to that,
Okay.
Kim, did you do you remember any other times after that first time that you went out there, and that you did that before the incident that where Jeff and our friend Brad went out there?
Say that again.
Sorry. Okay, so you had your initial the first time experience with the elf sinister.
Yeah.
Did you have any experience? Did you go out in return before you went out with Jeff and Brad and everybody else?
I don't know. I don't recall.
Okay.
Possibly. But I think I would probably remember it, but who knows?
Okay. I wanted to see if, I'm trying to build a timeline here. So
Right.
Okay. All right. So, Jeff.
Okay. So it couldn't have been long after that, and I don't know how it got started, but our friend Brad, heavy, high school drinker, heavy drinker in high school.
That's not to say we're not trying to say that Brad drank all the time, every day, or anything like that. He was just a high school party kid on the weekends.
Yeah, weekend
would have some beers, and and just like most of us, except for the little angel that I was back then.
That is true. So he. I don't know how he got started with this Ouija board, but and I don't know if he started with ours or if he started with somebody else's, but he started playing the Ouija board, and he was playing it on the weekends, after he'd been drinking or whatever, and he was playing a lot with Harley, and another group of people. I really wasn't around when he was doing this, but they got to conversing with a ghost named Gus. And for whatever reason, Gus didn't like people that drank. And he let them know that. I can't remember, I think they asked him some questions or something, or why wasn't he talking to him that night? And it was because they had been drinking. Well, some weird things happened, and then they played it a few times, and then one night they had been playing it, and they were had definitely been drinking, and Gus wasn't appreciative of what was happening, and it seems like he was violent or something. He had let them know that he wasn't happy at all. Well, I think that Brad, usual Saturday night, had several drinks, and he was going to stay the night at Harley's house that night. And I don't know if it was Harley's parents' house or if it was Harley's sister's house. But anyway, not long after they went to sleep, I don't know if Harley and Brad were sleeping in the same bed or if there were a couple of twin beds there. I don't know exactly what it was, but Harley started hearing Payne make some noises. Started hearing Brad make some noises. And Brad began speaking in tongues. And he was kind of rolling around in the bed, speaking in tongues, and Harley was trying to wake him up, but he couldn't get him to awaken. And so I don't know if he punched him a couple times before he went and got his sister, or if that happened after he got a sister. But anyway, Brad continued to speak in tongues. Harley slugged him in the face a couple times, and he still wasn't responding or speaking English. And so Harley didn't know what to do. So he went and woke up his sister. And his sister came in, and she witnessed it. And she sat on the edge of the bed and talked to him and continued to talk to him until she finally talked him out of it. Man. He came out of it. He didn't remember any of it. No recollection of anything that had happened. And pretty much from that moment on, he was afraid of the Ouija board.
Well, that's wild, because I mean, I hadn't heard that part. Or at least I don't remember hearing that part of the story, because I've heard parts of this story before. It's been a long time, but like I don't remember hearing that, and that certainly is very uncharacteristic of Brad to just behave like that. That's
you know he doesn't know another language.
I know he doesn't know another language.
That's for sure. That's hilarious. Wow. Well, I had heard snippets about Gus, but I never knew. I never knew that there was that. I never knew that there was that story either. So that's interesting.
So that happened, and of course, he told me about that, and I wasn't really sure about what had happened or whatever, but I told Kim about it. And so I was like, Kim, we need to get Brad over to the house, and we need to get the Ouija board out, and we need to see
Let's go deep.
what we can conjure up. So I don't know if this was the summertime. It must have been the summertime.
I think it was,
because it was an afternoon, and we were home. Brad came over, and we got in Kim's little bedroom.
Yes, I totally remember that. We were in my little bitty closet bedroom.
Yeah.
This is probably the summer before your senior year and our junior year. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
That probably would be right.
92.
Yeah.
So we get Brad over there, and we're sitting there, and I can't remember what all we asked, but we found out we were speaking to Gus, because what do you call the thing?
Planchette.
The planchette spelled out Gus when we asked, who are we speaking to? And so then we started asking him questions. And I can't remember what all we asked, but I know we asked him, didn't we ask him? We asked him how he died.
I think, if I recall from you telling me this before, you asked him his name, and I think how old he was and how he died.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so we'd asked him how he died, and I don't know if he told us. I don't think he said anything outright, but then we started asking him crazy questions, or either we asked him how he died and he spelled out the call letters of a local radio station, I think is what happened, because he spelled out KXY. I don't know if we asked, do you listen to the radio? Just messing around or whatever. But anyway, he spelled out KXY, which is a local country station. And so we turned on the radio, and I don't know who sings the song, but the song that was on was There's Always Love in Daddy's Hands. And so then I think we said, well, did your dad kill you? And he said yes. I
got goosebumps, and I've heard this story before, and I haven't heard it in probably 20 years at least, and yeah, that just gives me goosebumps.
Wow.
It was pretty wild. And then, so with Brad being afraid of it, and, I'd kind of seen just about everything I wanted to see. Well, Brad wasn't too afraid of it because he did keep the Ouija board in the trunk of his car.
Yeah.
He had it in there for a long time. And the fate of that Ouija board was I don't know, it must have been a fall night, and his car accidentally rolled into a lake.
Yeah.
With the Ouija board in the trunk.
Yeah.
And he still owes me a Ouija board. I told him he needs to get me another Ouija board.
Well, I remember though, he may have wasn't scared of it for a while, but then at one point, Gus told him the day that he was supposed to die.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
What was the date?
I can't remember the day. For some reason, I want to say it was like August or September or something. I can't remember. But I remember that other people were really, you guys that were playing around with it, talked about it and about how weird it was and how kind of scared it was. And he was just kind of nervously laughing off, And then I remember also my one connection to this, because I wouldn't have touched a Ouija board in high school. And I probably wouldn't mess with one now just because I don't know, but I don't care to know. But I remember that one day we were in our gym or athletics or whatever. It was weightlifting class. And Barry, you were there, and I don't know if you were in Hub or not. If you were, Jeff, if you were part of that group, or if you were still taking that stuff. I think you probably weren't. But we were playing kickball. It was a Friday, and it was that year, and we were playing kickball because it was a nice day outside. It was in the spring, and the coach, Coach Bogle, let us go outside and play. And because he got a kick out of us, because we got, we're a bunch of teenage boys who were really intense about playing kickball. And so it was fun. So we went out and we were walking out there, and it was an oddly still day. I remember that. And we walked out onto the field, and there was there's like a plastic bag on the field. And we would clear the field if anything was on it. And I remember Brad saying, and I remember this, quite explicitly, him saying, somebody needs to get that rubbish off of the field. And out of nowhere, a gust of wind came up, and it picked up that that plastic bag, and it swirled it straight up in the air, probably like 30 or 40 feet, carried it for about 200 yards, and then it went down, and then it just dropped. And it was the weirdest thing. And the reason I remember that so well is because Brad's rubbish is not a word that Brad would use in normal conversation, nor many people in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, that would use in normal conversation. But I remember how somebody Brad was like, oh, and people were looking around, and somebody said Gus, and Brad just got this really nervous smile and giggle.
I remember that now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was fun. That was good stuff. But Brad, to let everybody know, Gus's prediction did not come true, and Brad is still with us.
Although he did cheat death many times.
This is very true.
So we're looking for a little help from our friends. We need you, our loyal listeners, to help us spread the word about the What's Your Weird Story podcast. Just go to your current podcast provider, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, YouTube. We're just about everywhere. Hit the subscribe button, download the podcast, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, give us the highest rating you can, and give us a review. The What's Your Weird Story podcast is a community effort. Without our friends and listeners, it wouldn't be possible to do what we do. So please, help us out by spreading the word. Great.
Cool. All right. Well, we've got that from our high school days, our collective high school days. And I know, Kim, you've got a couple of, at least one good story for us from a little later in life. So what's that all about? What's that weird story?
Okay. So, well, I just have to say, while you guys were talking, I looked on Amazon and I looked up Ouija boards, and there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many, and they're like giving them 5 stars. Like, oh, this product is weird. Anyway,
This one really gets the ghosts going.
I know, right?
Great for talking to gophers, not so much ghost.
Okay, so I worked at a drug and alcohol treatment center for 3 years, and the building was quite old. It had been refurnished somewhat, but there was still an unfurnished part. And the building had been many things before it was a drug and alcohol treatment center. It had been the main hospital in this part of town. It's called HEB. It's Hearst, Euless, and Bedford. I live in Bedford, but it's all really close by, and Colleyville and Keller. Anyway.
And that's
by Fort Worth.
Oh, and that's down in Texas. Okay.
Yeah. So it had also been a nursing home, and then also some kind of American Indian alcohol treatment center, I believe. And we would store supplies back in the unfinished part. And the original, like, light blue hospital looking tiles were still on the walls. And people would tell me, this particular room was the morgue. And it was usually locked, but I had been in a couple of those places. And there was a girl I worked with, her name's Kiki, and she explained to me that she was very sensitive to, auras, energy, and stuff like that. And she said whenever she went back in that back room, she could feel like pressure on her body, like pressure in her chest. So it made it hard to breathe. And eventually she just wouldn't even go back there at all. And so I wasn't afraid to go back there. Nothing ever happened to me yet. So it wasn't anything. And then one night, I had been working with the teenage girls, and oh my gosh, they were being crazy. They were like piercing each other's noses and, cutting each other's hair and shaving. One of them shaved her head, and it was just a crazy night. And so I asked another lady to come over and help me. And finally we got them all calmed down, and everyone was in the other room, and they were watching Forrest Gump. All the girls were in there, plus the RA, the residential assistant, was in there with them. And I was in this little kind of nook. There was a long cabinet, and in the back, closest to the door that led outside, there was this door that flapped open.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call that? It was a door that you just, like a bar door, you pushed it open,
like a saloon
and then
door.
And then it swung behind you until it stopped.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just push it through. Yeah. And so I'm working on the report because we had to do this, report every night for what happened on the unit and everything like that. And all of a sudden, I hear that door flapping, and I immediately turned around and looked, and It was like it had been pushed all the way up and it was flapping really hard back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I didn't see anyone, so I stood up and there was no one there. And I looked over the other side and there was no one there. And I am kind of a drama person. And I ran out into the room and I was like, okay, who did that? Who did that? Oh my God. Oh my God. And they were like, no, we were all in here, Kim. We were all in here. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Something happened. Something happened. Oh my gosh. You guys, there's a presence in here. The door. And I freaked all those girls out and got them all excited and crazy. And I was like, are you serious? No one did this. And the other lady was like, Kim, no one was over there. And I was like, didn't you hear it? And no one else heard it or saw it but me. And nothing besides the Ouija board thing had happened to me that felt like that in a long, long time. And so, yeah, that's my story. Wow. It really, really shocked me. You know, it was kind of like the Ouija board. It excited me. I was laughing. But I was also like, oh my God, what's going on? And so, thank you. That's my story.
Yes. Thank you. So, okay. So did you feel any kind of like, like any kind of, did you feel any kind of presence or any kind of a change of atmosphere or anything, or was it just all of a sudden there was the rapid movement of the door and it just freaked you out?
Yeah. All of a sudden it was the door. Like I didn't feel anything. I wasn't facing the door. I was facing away from the door. And, you know, as soon as I heard it, I looked because anyone coming back there was coming behind the counter. And so the girls aren't supposed to be coming back behind the counter. So I was figuring it was my coworker coming to do whatever. And I just looked and saw that door swinging and no one was there. And then, then I lost my marbles. It was interesting, yeah.
That's intense. And so, like, was it like a full moon, or is it just, one of those nights where, like, all the teenagers they were just keyed up because, they're full of hormones and already getting better?
That would happen a lot, but especially, I mean, we would always take note of the full moon because inevitably something happened. Yeah. One of the kids took off and ran, or one of the adults like punched another person, or somebody smuggled something in through the window, or and people were getting messed up, different things like that. But with the kids, it was always uncertain.
I used to tend bar, and I could tell you within a day or two when the full moon was going to happen, because I'm telling you, man, the freaks would come out, and people would just get crazy, man.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's true. You talk to anybody who's like in the service industry that works at night, late at night, especially bartenders and waitresses, stuff like that. People that work at like convenience stores. You talk to police, anybody that works at a hospital or ER, anything in the medical field, anybody that has to deal with the public in general on full moons, man, they'll tell you that it definitely, it affects people. And, we don't know why, it's strange. It's weird, I dare to say. So
it is weird. It's weird.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Kim.
Absolutely.
That was a great story. Hey guys, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're very 21st century. We're on Instagram at What's Your Weird Story. That's WATSYER Weird Story. We're at Twitter. We're at What's Your Weird. We got a Facebook page. It's the What's Your Weird Story podcast Facebook page. Just remember that our your is your because we're folksy. And we also have a www.whatsyourweirdstory.com. That's www.whatsyourweirdstory.com. That's for all of your social media platforms. And those are ways you can contact us and set up an interview if you want to be a part of the show. So look us up. So Jeff, I know you have a subject matter that's near and dear to your heart that you want to talk about. So we'll let you talk about that for a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm pre-laughing.
So Jeff is he's a somewhat of a amateur expert, I would say. And I don't know if you've had any personal experience in the field with field work or anything like that you haven't told me about. But Jeff, why don't you go ahead and tell us about this is more of your weird obsession. Could we call it that?
Yeah, you can call it obsession.
All right, Jeff, what's your weird obsession?
Okay, well, this would have been the summer of 2005. I had started a new job, I guess, that January of 2005. That really slowed down at the end of May. And I was getting ready to start law school in the fall. And so I had this desk job, and I was pretty much chained to the desk and with really nothing to do. And I had pretty much been to the ends of the internet, checking the same things over and over again. And then I guess one day I must have come across a story. We should probably even say before that the ends of the safe for work, non-blocked internet. Exactly. Now I've pushed those limits at home. So. But I must have come across a story about Bigfoot, and so I decided that summer I was going to research Bigfoot, and I was going to get to the bottom of the story. So I read just about everything I could get my hands on regarding Bigfoot. I watched the videos. I was YouTubing. I was checking it all out, and I still don't know. Until we capture a Bigfoot, I still don't know what he is. Mm-hmm. And I know that I do know that there's different theories on his existence, and I think really, for me it would have to be the flesh and bone theory. If he does exist, it would have to be flesh and bone. He's got DNA like you and I, and he's alive. And then another theory is that he's an alien. And a lot of Bigfoot sightings have also occurred around UFO sightings. Yep. And then there is probably the third most popular theory is that he's able to, he can shift between dimensions. So he's able to jump dimensions, and that's how he can be there 1 second and gone the next. And then, supposedly he is, there's a lot of stories about him being telepathic, and people will see a Bigfoot and they'll be scared, and then they'll get some kind of voice in their head will tell them to remain calm, that I'm not here to hurt you. Just, And so that kind of lends itself, to Bigfoot having, magical powers or some type of powers. So I don't know, I did all that research. I'm still into it. I still don't know if he's alive. I did think, though, this probably was in 2012 or 2013. I had gotten a game camera. My wife had got me a game camera for Christmas. I'm an avid deer hunter. And anyway, so I put this thing out, and I'm catching pictures of deer and things like that. And it was out for deer season. And I went to Mexico for New Year's that year. My wife and I and her parents. And so I never got to go out and pick up that camera. And then I was home for the Super Bowl in February. And it was a nice day. Super Bowl was nice. Had a friend of mine from college there, Sam. He will probably make an appearance on this podcast at some point if he does it. But he was with me, and I said, man, let's go out and let's get my game camera, and let's see what all we caught on there. And so we go get it, and I'm scrolling through the pictures, and just kind of looking, deer. Is that a wild hog? Nah, deer, dog, cow. And then I see this, it looked like there was a raccoon or something that had crawled in front of the lens. And so I stopped and I scrolled back, and I was looking at this fur, and it's not anything over the lens. And then I see that there's a hand, and then I see this hand is grasping a branch. So it's your stereotypical Bigfoot picture. It's not a straight on, non-blurry, clear picture. It's a picture that pretty much covers a shoulder with one arm and then down to a leg. And you can see there's this branch that's being dragged behind. So I freak out, of course, I'm like,
I'm freaking out right now. You've never told me this.
Oh, you never heard about this?
No.
So I get everybody around. I get my dad over there, mom, wife, my brothers. I'm showing everybody this. And I'm like, what is this? So then I'm like, I was probably 75 at that point. I was 75% sure that this was probably a guy in a Bigfoot costume, and because there's a lot of oil and gas activity out there, and they do a lot of seismograph stuff, and people are on your land, and I thought, well, it'd be pretty cool, if one of these guys carried a Bigfoot suit around with him, and they come across these game cams, and they're like, let's fuck with this guy, And so, but then there was 25% of me. There was 25% of me that was like, this could be real. Yeah. This could be real. Yeah. So, my cousin Phil from Okarche, he's an oil and gas guy, and he's a pretty knowledgeable guy. He knows a lot of people in the area, and so I called him and I said, man, have you ever heard of anybody catching a Bigfoot or a guy dressed as a Bigfoot on their game cam? And he's like, no, I haven't ever heard of it. So I think I sent him a picture, and then I started saying I was going to call the paper, and I was going to submit this picture to the Kingfisher Times and Free Press. And I was telling everybody, I'm like, yeah, 75% sure this is a guy in a suit, but this would be newsworthy. This would be newsworthy. And so my mom heard me saying that. And I didn't know what was going on, until they told me. But my mom said, I guess, I don't know who she told, but she's like, you've got to put an end to this, because he is going to embarrass the family with a call to the newspaper, and this is going to get in the newspaper. So apparently, my dad and my wife had arranged for a Bigfoot suit to be bought. Since we were gone to Mexico, my brothers went out, looked up a tree, took several shots until they got one, that was a partial shot, and, left that one thing on there. And
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's so good, dude.
That's pretty good. I'll have to send you guys the picture.
Yeah, definitely, dude. That's.
Well, hey, you know what, man? Like, is it Gigantopithecus? Is that the the creature?
Yeah.
That was real, right? And supposedly,
yes.
And so, I mean, I don't discount the fact that it could be out there roaming, around. So, I mean,
we're still finding. Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I'm just wondering, there's not just one Bigfoot, right? There's
there'd have to be
a species.
More. Yeah.
Okay.
From what I've read, the North American continent can support a Bigfoot population of about 6,500 big feet.
What?
Yeah.
Are you?
They eat a lot.
Did you see the Les Stroud? Did you watch his series on that? Les Stroud, the camping guy, the guy that would go out and the survival dude.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. No, I didn't see his.
Yeah, he did a whole series on it because he had claimed there was a time, I believe, that he lived out in the woods for a year, like nonstop by himself. And he had encounters that he could not explain, so he did a whole series on it. But the big one was and you'll have to go look at the information. The guy that he got in touch with was this Canadian dude who claimed to have had video of facial, you can actually see the Bigfoot. There's multiple ones that he took video of. And it's since been debunked and stuff, so I don't know whatever happened to. I don't know.
Was that the Manitoba? Was that Manitoba?
Could have been. There was a youth or a teen Bigfoot that he took video of, and then he took video of an adult. Mm-hmm. It's interesting though. You should check it out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. So I don't know. Supposedly, there, not far from Kingfisher, there's the Indian reservation, and the Native Americans for the longest time have said that Bigfoot exists, and but
almost every culture has some kind of hairy man, wild man, something along this, abominable snowman, Yowie in Australia,
Florida skunk ape.
That's exactly where I was going. Yeah, so there's all these kind of animalistic man things that have that are part of old culture and old cultural stories, and so there's and that's all over the planet. So there's something to be said about that.
Just when you mentioned that, I never had really thought that, it's the same way with religion and gods. And maybe there's something genetically programmed into us. Maybe it's, we don't want to be the only ones or at least be the only ones like ourselves. And is there another being on this planet that's similar to us? And maybe that's what people want, or maybe that's what they want to see. I don't know. Like I said, I still don't know. I haven't ruled him out. I've got an open mind. He could possibly exist in one of those.
I think we're going to get closer to the answer in October.
I think you're right.
I think we are.
Hanobia Bigfoot Festival 2018.
Yeah. The three of us are going down there into Hanobia, Oklahoma. We're going to go to the Hanobia Oklahoma Bigfoot Festival and Conference. It's a 2-day event, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
There will be a podcast happening.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So that's going to be a blast. I mean, I agree with you, Jeff, that it is entirely possible that there's a hominid type of a great ape or whatever kind of a creature that is out there that is still, fully undiscovered. Obviously there's been lots of hoaxes, but there's also a lot of evidence that it's just unknowable. That's just, we don't understand what it is or what it's about. And you can dig into it as much as you want. But there's tons of, every year we find new types of life on this planet that we did not know about before. And and we categorize it and everything. And it's like, what was it? The coelacanth, the fish that was thought to have died off in dinosaur times, millions of years ago, and they found one, and they found more still, but they found it off the coast of Africa in like the 40s or something like that. I can't remember the exact date, but it was the 20th century, so it's entirely possible that, the biodiversity on this planet has come and gone. It's not impossible. So that the existence of a creature like Bigfoot, it's highly plausible.
It's true.
And what I'm thinking of is not only just Bigfoot, but I think we would be ignorant to suggest that we're the only ones, in this universe, in this there's no way there is life out there.
There just simply has to be, because it literally would be a waste of space for life to not have developed in any other place. Again, there's so many planets. We barely understand life on our own planet.
Exactly.
So there's no way there could be crazy, unthinkable things out there that aren't even carbon-based life forms like we are. So, Jeff, this just reminded me of I told a story on our last episode when we interviewed my friend Mark about his UFO experience out by Weatherford. I told the story about how you and I and Big Bird went driving out in the country, and we saw that. I was telling the story about how he saw the UFO and the missing time and all that stuff out there, and how we saw that same triangle thing in the sky.
Yeah,
and we freaked out and ran.
We totally did. That was pretty crazy, Yeah. I don't know if I was really in a state of mind to, I've done some things since then. I remember that, but I can't remember exactly
I think
what transpired.
That was just a normal night that we were bored because we lived in the dorms, and we were underage, so we couldn't go to a bar or anything like that, so we just, like we do, small town boys, especially small town boys and girls, you go out in the country and you drive around, and we just went out and just was driving around. We found that spot, and I was telling you guys that story, and that's when it happened.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So
That is crazy. That is really
and I remember another time that when you and Jason, I can't use the nicknames here, but when you and Jason lived over across the street from that one crazy guy, and you guys broke out the Ouija board one night. It might have been Halloween. I can't remember. But I remember you guys broke it out at least one more time that you messed around with one, but it really wasn't working that night. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, you guys, you got anything more for us?
So I just happened to remember when you guys were talking about that, in the same cemetery with the same friend that was on the Ouija board with me. One night we were just driving out, and then you could go behind the cemetery, and supposedly there was this satanic group that did rituals there. And, you could see there were fires that were lit and then, snuffed out. And it was just, interesting. And so one night we're just driving around in the area, and all of a sudden there's these blue flashing lights all over the cemetery. I mean, it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Sorry, what kind of were these these weren't police lights? Were they
no. It was little LED really bright blue lights, and they would just flash on and off. And so we tried to drive where they were, but every time we would get, the lights wouldn't be there, then they would be somewhere else in the cemetery.
That's wild. Wow.
Yeah, I haven't thought of that in a long time. But yeah, that was a strange happening in the same cemetery.
Yeah, I remember that that road that behind the cemetery that would often get washed out because it was so close to the creek. But I also remember people saying that Satanists were down there, and of course there probably never was. It was probably just people going down there, high schoolers, starting little fires and drinking beer. But that was back when it was still very much a satanic panic. Everything was satanic, and especially a conservative small town like we grew up in. But yeah, I never heard anything like blue lights or anything like that. That's wild.
Yeah, It was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
pretty weird. And it went on for quite some time, and then finally they just suddenly stopped. And
wow, that's so you were driving around, and it's not a huge cemetery by some means. I mean, that's an old cemetery for our town, which is not even an old town. At that point it was probably maybe 100 years old. Probably a little over, but there's if I recall correctly, it's like a big loop. And then, isn't it just basically like a big loop and then one road in the middle or something like that?
There's more roads than that.
Okay.
There's little ones, but
still, that's around. Just to be out there at night. If it was somebody else out there in a car, you would see the car. Right. There's no places to hide. I mean, no.
It's flat.
Yeah.
And the lights were not. They were eye level to us where we were looking. They weren't way up in the trees or anything. They were just across, the thing, just flashing.
Wow. That's weird. Cool. Spooky. Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that's one of the fun things about doing this podcast is a lot of times while we're talking to people and they're telling their stories and sharing their stories, they will remember something else weird, unexplainable that has happened, and it's not always that it's going to be supernatural or alien, lights or anything like that. We expect to hear all sorts of stuff, just weird people that and stuff like that. I know Jeff's got some stories for us in the future about some of the weird people that he tends to attract.
I'm a magnet, man.
You are.
I do not know what it is, but I don't know. I like spice, I guess. I like a little
colorful
drama,
people.
So.
Yeah.
Right. And they like you, but so.
Jeff is just a likable person. He has so many different friends from so many different walks of life. Yeah. But he's so relaxed and just such a cool guy that everybody likes him. I don't think he has an enemy in the world.
Yeah.
I think I knew one enemy.
There's a couple ex-girlfriends out there.
Well, but they're crazy.
There was one kid that we graduated with that didn't like you for a while, but that's a whole other story. They left to the side, but so we can comment on that when we're done recording. But cool, awesome. Well, guys, I think if that's all you got for us, we're good. We appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of laughs and it's been great and just good catching up.
Absolutely.
And, it's, I can't remember, Kim, I think the last time we hung out was probably when I came down there with some friends, for New Year's in from 10 to 11, I think. That's the last time I was there. I think that was the last time maybe we saw each other. I don't remember.
I don't know. I really don't. It's been a long time.
But it's been good to chat with you. And Jeff, it's always good catching up with you, buddy. And, we'll see you in October.
That sounds good. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
guys.
thanks, guys.
Well, Barry, that was one of the funnest interviews we've ever had. Like you said, those are good friends of ours, and we got a lot of stories that are weird, but weren't even of the right general nature that we could probably tell.
Yeah. I don't think I ever knew the depth of the Gus story. I'd always heard it, always heard, bits and pieces.
That's the thing is I had heard bits and pieces too, and there's still more stuff that I didn't know, and I'm going to work on getting Brad Payne on this show.
That'd be great.
To get him to tell if he can remember the Gus stories and can tell us all that stuff. Awesome. That would be a lot of fun.
That'd be great.
But, also with Jeff's Bigfoot story of catching Bigfoot on film, Jeff has sent us the picture. It will be up on our Instagram. It'll be up on the website. It's already there.
That's awesome.
And I mean, that is so typical of his family.
Yeah.
And so brilliant. And I am not going to lie. I have had that same idea.
Yeah.
To try and trick.
That's great. Well, hopefully, when we go down to the festival, we'll be able to get more of a put some more clues together. You know what I mean? Try to get closer to the Sasquatch.
Yeah, dude, for real. I don't know if you've seen the picture just yet, but it's pretty good, but you can definitely tell that it's not it's not legit. Yeah. But I think that was a lot of wanting to believe.
Right.
But that's still it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our 7th episode. And stay tuned for more. We got a lot of cool stuff lined up coming your way. We've got some ghost stories. We got some more Bigfoot stories. And we got all sorts of stories, but, we need your stories. So don't forget that you make this machine run, and it's a lot of fun, and we want to talk to you. So go ahead and get a hold of us, and let's make it happen. As always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, be safe.
Be weird.
The stories presented on the What's Your Weird Story podcast are, to our knowledge, true experiences that our guests have had. We can't take the time to research all claims made, and besides, it's just